Oh, I had the hat on?
Yeah.
Well, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Wow, can you believe we're already on episode 8?
Yes. Good
That
times.
is amazing.
Mhm.
That's awesome, right?
Yes,
The
just-
number 8 is infinity, right?
Yes, it is.
That's right.
Yes. And we're
Good
just
deal.
beginning.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot from you guys being here. So today we're going to have a discussion about spirituality,
Yes.
but two different sectors of it, right?
Oh yeah.
One being traditional spirituality,
Mhm.
and the other is what you're calling New Age,
Right.
right? And so me, personally, I don't really understand the difference.
Okay.
So I'm going to be asking, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to ask you guys a lot of questions
Okay.
about this.
Sounds good.
And so I did a little bit of research on my own to kind of understand what it is that we're going to be talking about.
Mhm.
But still, there was a lot of questions left in my mind
Yeah.
about, what we're doing and how we do it and what you guys do,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right, here at Mindful Lotus in Lake Elsinore, right?
Right.
So let's start with traditional spirituality. Like, what does that encompass? What would I, if I had to see a list of things that were deemed traditional spirituality, what would I see on that list? Would it be like
I guess it would have a backbone maybe with a religion, like could be Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and even Christian.
a Christianity?
Yeah.
And so when you say traditional, that's your traditional type, like go to church, pray,
Mhm.
worship,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And then those kind of elements exist in all of the different spiritual realms that are out there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, correct.
So like, let's say a Buddhist priest or monk or whatever you call them,
Monk. Yeah.
right, monk,
Yeah.
they would go through traditional ritual things.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and so those traditional things that people go through in their particular realm of spirituality, that's what gives them a foundation, right?
Right.
Okay, so they go through practices,
Mhm.
learning experiences,
Mhm.
exercises, so to speak,
Mhm.
right, where they're continually growing their gift.
Mhm.
Mhm. Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of traditional in a nutshell, almost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and then so now going over to New Age, is it a digital movement? Is it like the new movement that everything else is doing, like right now, where people are going online to get, ordained, or going online to get,
Certified.
like certified, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So the traditional spirituality or traditional realm, if you can't, the only way you could transfer over to the New Age is if you bring that foundation with you that you've grown to practice, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So, like we were talking earlier about shaman,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And Angie, you mentioned that there's companies or people out there that are handing out certifications
Right.
to be a shaman,
Right.
but yet you haven't gone through. I mean, how can you do that without being called?
Well, that's the
Right.
thing. So that's one of the issues that I have with it. Obviously, my grandfather's Apache Indian, but I don't go around calling myself a Native American
Right.
because I'm not. I have different upbringing.
Right.
But so what's happening is I'm having people who come to the store who will say, hey, you know what? I want to teach a class on shamanism, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then they call themselves a shaman. However, tribes don't give out certificates for being a shaman.
Right.
You're born into it.
Right.
You're raised to be that.
It's your life.
Right. And
Mhm.
so people are taking these online courses. And so I was talking to, we're going to have the fun makers on in a couple of weeks, and they're going to go into a little bit of deeper conversation about it. But, I was having a conversation with Kim, and there are people who you can take a class and learn the practices of a shaman, but you don't become one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you could learn what does a shaman do, their teachings and things like that, but you're not a shaman.
Okay.
That's something that you're born into, just like a chief is born into it, a holy man, a medicine man. Those are
Right.
things that you were raised to become. And so when people come in the door and they want to teach a class on shaman because now they took an online course because now they're a shaman,
That
that's
doesn't work.
that's new age to me.
Yeah.
That's just
It is.
trendy new age
Yeah.
stuff, and everybody's jumping on the new age bandwagon. You know, I've been doing Reiki since the 90s. I had to lay down that foundation. I had to do the work.
Right.
Well, now there's people who are doing Reiki attunements. You might be in
Online.
Texas, and then someone in California is giving you an attunement.
Oh.
I that's not something that I subscribe to. I don't believe in that.
Right.
You know, that's another new age thing. To me, that's just people money grabbing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how can you become a yoga instructor if you're, you know, in another state? The teacher's not there teaching you the right poses, the right stances,
Yeah.
and things like that. So then all of a sudden you become a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I get it. I get it. Like coming from the entertainment industry, you don't. Like I can't. If I take music classes, it's not going to make me a Grammy award-winning producer.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You got to
Yeah.
lay down the foundation.
Yeah.
You got to do the
Get the
work. You've got to
experience.
have
Yeah.
somebody working with you one-on-one. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, how
And
can
you-
you ask questions if you don't have
Yeah.
a teacher with you?
And you know, I just kind of relating what we're talking about to entertainment. I found out that most of the people that I work with that are really, really great musicians or great producers or
Mhm.
writers grew up like in a family that was musically gifted,
Right.
or they grew up in a church as a little kid
Mm-hmm.
learning the foundation of gospel music or, you know,
Right.
music in general.
Right. Well, they mastered their craft.
Exactly, through the years, starting at a young age. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what you're saying is the difference between, let's say, a real shaman and a new age
Right.
shaman, right?
Mhm.
Is that these people have lived it, breathed it.
Right.
They
They,
usually have a teacher or instructor or a master that
Right.
that teaches them the,
Right.
the groundwork.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're working with, you know,
Yeah.
consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense to me now when I look at some of these documentaries that I've, you know, watched on TV where they talk about monks, and you see these kids that are little
Yeah.
kids
Oh,
Right.
that are
Yeah.
being taught how to meditate, how to pray, how to do different exercises and you know
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then
Right.
later on they become an adult, and then
Uh-huh.
eventually I guess they have their own.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems like New Age is tapping into everything out there in the metaphysics, everything from Reiki, breath work, meditation, and
People are just opening a book and teaching
Yeah.
people breath work
Yeah.
without taking a course, working
Oh,
one-on-one
wow.
with a teacher. You could do harm to
you
somebody.
can do a lot of harm too. So
Yeah.
like for example, breath work. If you're doing, say, well, I got certified to do breath work. People ask me all the time, oh, you certified? I'm like, well, Buddhists don't certify you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a lineage, you know.
yeah,
And like, like, for example, if you're angry or you have road rage, you're coming in and you want to do some breath work, these guys are they're gonna pump you up, you know, they're gonna get you energized. So you're gonna keep them up there. So if you're angry, you're gonna stay angry. You
right.
gotta learn how to ground them, do the breath work, then ground them again, then do the meditation so you can ground them so they can go home, relax.
Yeah.
You don't want to build up that energy and keep them there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Right. And
Yeah.
also too, people now are having people come to meditations and they're taking you back to when you were born. So they're taking
Yeah.
you back through, I don't even know what it's called, but their meditations are taking you through, you know, your adult life, your teenage life, your elementary school, and then taking you on. Well, you could trigger someone with some trauma,
Yeah.
and that work is for a psychologist or a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
Oh,
some
that's a
kind
good
of
point.
therapist.
That's a
But
good point.
but they're jumping on the new age. Oh, I could teach meditation. I'm going to help you to release any childhood trauma. But they have no schooling, no teacher, no nothing.
Right.
They can open up that trauma, but what are you gonna do when you open up that trauma? How are you gonna help
Yeah.
them now?
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
You know, they might tap into something that was closed a long time ago. Now you're opening it up.
Yeah.
So, in meditations too, like in Buddhist, when we go over there, we ground ourselves. You know, and before we do a meditation in front of the monk, you know, he's leading us, but. When it's cold turkey, we just meditate. We don't get guidance, you know, you're gonna see this, you're gonna see that. That's not meditating, that's more like a new age.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're doing guided meditations, you really can't tap in. The meditating, real meditation, Hinduism, Taoist, Buddhist, that's really to connect to the, you know, to the source.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking, when I'm constantly talking and talking, you're gonna see this, you're gonna see that. You're really not feeling the experience. You're just listening to the person.
Oh yeah.
All it does is relax you.
I guess if somebody was to be in that situation and they kept talking and talking, you're more or less guiding
Exactly.
the people instead of letting them have a spiritual connection, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me some of the other elements that are being affected by this New Age movement right now. I mean, we mentioned shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Does it apply across the board right now? I mean, is there like
almost in everything?
It actually
Really?
does. So what's happening too is there's a lot of teenagers who want to start doing witchcraft. So they're on TikTok, and there are people. I know people who are Wiccan. I know people who I have a friend that's a high priestess. She's been that for like 40 years. So it's something that's what she chooses to do. That's how she is. But she was even saying to me, these kids are on TikTok. All of a sudden they're casting spells. They don't know what they're doing.
Wow.
They're coming in here and they're getting crystals because they want to have someone fall in love with them.
Oh,
you don't cast spells because now that's a binding contract.
Right.
And for those who do cast spells, that's what it's about. You're going to get someone's free will.
Yeah.
But people are jumping on that bandwagon on, I want to become a witch, I want to become a warlock, and now they're doing all these crazy things. They have no idea what they're doing.
I like the way you put that because you don't realize. I mean, I've never been involved in anything like casting spells or anything like that, or know anybody who does, to be honest with you. But the fact that you said you're imposing on somebody's free will, that means that you're forcing a change in their life.
Right.
Which, if you believe wholeheartedly in karma, that's got to come back to you.
It sure is.
You know?
Tenfold.
So at some point in your life, you're going to have to pay for all of these spells, or
And people are doing them. Believe it or not, people are doing them all the time. And you could get somebody that thinks you could be your next door neighbor that looks like a Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And behind closed doors, they're doing a whole nother set of works.
Well, I got to tell you, just going on that real briefly, I moved into a house in Riverside one time, and everything was just off. Like the whole energy of the house was off, and it was a beautiful home on a golf course, right? And just something was wrong, my kids were at each other's throat all the time. There was just no peace in that house.
Right.
And then one day I was doing some renovations, and I found some stuff in the house that just literally, I stopped, I called my dad, and my dad just started praying over the phone, right? But then I decided to take it a step further, and I went to the next door neighbor who had been there since the homes were built.
Right.
And I asked him, do you know anything about the history of this house? And he said, are you having problems? And I said, I am having problems. And he said, he goes, I don't know what's going on with the house itself. He said, but the first person that bought that house was a doctor. And I said, okay. And he said one day that him and his wife were sitting in their family room with the windows open because it was summertime, and they heard chanting, right?
Oh, wow.
And so he said that they went towards the back of the yard to look towards the house to see where it was coming from. And the house that I bought, it was like the back of the house was all glass from ceiling to floor, and there was a beautiful golf course out in the back, so you could just see the whole thing. But he said when they walked back and they looked back, that there was the doctor and some of his people sitting in a circle with some candles, and they were chanting.
Oh.
And so I sold the house and moved. You know what I mean? But like you said, you just don't know. I mean, that guy was a doctor. If I went to him as a patient, I would never guess that he's at home, doing whatever he's doing, right?
And would you want that doctor performing surgery on you if he did a Zoom to get his degree?
Right. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I understand completely what you're talking about.
That is true. There's someone here locally who's teaching what he has worked many, many years on, and she's just teaching it, posting it, come to my Qigong classes, my breath work.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have any experience in it. She's just jumping on the new age bandwagon because everybody else is doing it, so now she's offering it.
She's reading a book and then she gives you the class at the same time.
Oh wow.
That's
So
a new age person.
yeah. So you're kind of, that is, to me, is just like a way to make money.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
what it is. That's what a lot of
It is.
New Age people are doing. Instead of laying
Yeah.
down the foundation, doing the work, they're just jumping on the bandwagon and just saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, you know what? I think I could become a Reiki practitioner." You know,
Yeah.
I
No
was
experience.
attuned in my sleep.
Oh.
Okay, well, good. Well, maybe that might be true. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go to you for work because I don't know what energy you're working with.
That's true.
Yeah. And to go back to your house, even there's new age now too, doing limpias, cleansings with the egg
Yes.
and stuff, or candle work and stuff. There's, I mean, I will never get a cleansing from anybody that first you want to ask, I'm like, what kind of cleansing you do? What do you work with? From my experience, I've been to a place, I thought it was real nice and everything, and the guys are like, yeah, man, we can do this, we can start working on this person, and then you should do a payback, you should do this. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Kind of like a Sunday school teacher or something. You see them, they're like, okay, they look okay, but oh man. And he was telling me, and he opens up a dresser right there. He had voodoo dolls and everything. I'm like, oh my god, I'm out of here.
They're everywhere.
So
Yeah.
you kind of have to find out, do your research first before you do work with anybody.
Yeah.
Are they new age? Are they traditional? How many years experience? Like Lady Mary's gonna come here pretty soon. She's a wonderful lady. Everybody knows her. They swear that her energy is it, it's it's powerful, strong, and pure. But yeah, she has over 40 years experience. She goes to Mexico and she has like maybe 30, 40 people waiting for her outside right when she's getting to the temple where she's going to work. But yeah, you gotta do your research though. You have to do your research.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if you were going to go to a doctor, you would, and you never knew who that was, you would go look online to see like what the reviews are, or if there's any complaints against that, you know,
And
physician.
that too. I mean, there might be complaints, but you want to maybe you talk to them in person and kind of get an idea, because there's some people that are might be against us talking about this right now.
Get some haters.
Yeah, we're gonna get some haters. That's
Well,
why
I mean,
that review. So you want to talk to the person, get the feel of them.
And that's what we
Sure.
always say when people call here and want a service. I say, come in and meet us, because we
Yeah.
have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
You could come in, you could come check us out. I'll take you to my room. You know, we're open here. We're transparent.
Yeah.
We're gonna let you know what we do and how we do it. And if we can't help you, we're gonna say so.
Yeah.
So this isn't a money grab for us. This is our passion. This is for me. It's my purpose.
Sure.
So we don't do that. You come in and meet us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because I think in most cases when you're talking about services and practices that have to do with spirituality, you want to be connected with the person that's working with you,
Right.
right? Because this is a joint effort,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you as a let's say as a patient or you know a client coming in, like I want to make sure that I connect with Louis.
Right.
And we
You might not
get
like
the same
him.
energy, right?
You might not like him. You might say,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I don't want this guy working on me.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, ayahuasca is the big thing too, all the plant medicine. And I had a friend who was like, oh, I want to do some ayahuasca, and I'm like, you need to find someone who's been doing it,
The right person.
the right person. Well, she just went with someone who just said, oh yeah, I could take you out to the desert and we could do some ayahuasca. Well, I can tell you what, that woman's never come back from her trip.
Wow.
And so, because she went out there to the desert and just with her pillow and her blanket and never came back from her trip.
Wow.
Yeah, so she and where is this guy that took her out to the desert? Well, they don't know.
Wow.
So he just wasn't safe.
Yeah, one of my friends, he's gonna be I won't say his name, but he's gonna be for an interview too. He said he signed up for ayahuasca. There are no other people or anything, but he's like, I just needed to do it. So he goes. He was feeling he didn't feel right. He didn't feel right. He thought he was gonna feel all great and everything, but the people there didn't even pay attention to him or anything. They told him, you signed up for this, so toughen up. That's it.
Wow.
So there he was just like right there with his also emotions and everything. That's what I mean. People, you gotta have people that are gonna help you. That are trained for this.
Yeah.
Not just like I learned this on YouTube, and now I'm gonna start teaching this or giving these classes out.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
I've seen it happen in other realms as well. Like I'm not going to say businesses because even though you run a business, this whole spiritual
Religions too.
services thing. Yeah, religions, right?
Right.
Those
You know.
those are businesses,
Right.
in my
Right.
opinion.
They
I
are
mean, somebody might
businesses.
argue with me, but
Right. Right.
you know, we were talking earlier about
Right.
this
Mhm.
church that I used to go to, and you know, the pastor of the church living on an island. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
Yeah.
there's thousands of people that are going there every weekend
Mm-hmm.
making donations and contributions
Mhm.
to churches, and I'm thinking to myself when I'm sitting in there, I'm thinking, do you know how much more you could do if you were living a humble life and taking all those millions of dollars you spent on a house and taking that money that you're getting from the congregation and putting it back in
Right.
to the congregation, those families that are really in need, or those people that are really in need,
Right.
and giving back.
Mhm.
We talked about earlier, like one of the pet peeve of your husband is, with same as mine.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I grew up with my parents raised me in a Catholic environment, so naturally, you know, the priest was everything, like he was God, right? But then as I became a young adult, I realized that these are people just like myself.
Right.
And I found a church, a small church, where the pastor of the church was actually a postman. He worked
Mhm.
for the postal service, so
Right.
he had a regular 9 to 5
Right.
job.
Yeah.
I had more respect
Mhm.
for that in itself
Right.
than anything ever that I've ever experienced
Yeah.
in that, you know, in that area.
Well,
So
that's what Lonnie says. You know, the pastor should work. When he grew up, the pastor worked.
yeah,
He did
Mhm.
Bible study during the week and then showed up for church on Sunday, and he went to work during the week like
Yeah.
everyone else. And
And
that's how it should be.
and I guess you know, you have those people that are ministering those large congregations. They have to be thankful that there's so many people that believe in them, that they're actually contributing,
Right.
you know, to that. So
Mhm.
you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that God has a price, or spirituality has a price on it. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, if you're called to do something, then that's your gift,
Mhm.
and that's your calling, and that's what you follow.
Right.
But you can't, like, I can't go and, you know, make myself a pastor of a church and then say, okay, guys, you know, subscribe to my church, and you know, here's the link where you can make donations,
Right.
right? Like, I would have to, like, build from the bottom up, like
Right.
really get rooted in whatever the word is,
Mhm.
and then start to understand that,
Right.
and then be able to share that with people from a point of an educated point, right? So what you're telling me in this whole thing is that these people that are going online and getting certified, or it's just, there's no foundation there.
No.
Yeah.
I think that there's a few. I think that there's some probably that are committed, and maybe that's the only way that they can learn.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just some things like being a shaman. Those are things I feel that you're born into, like a medicine man,
Oh,
a holy
absolutely.
man.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean, I think that there's probably some exceptions, but as far as like taking an online shaman course, to me that's just a new age money grab.
Yeah, I agree. I
A
would
lot of
say.
these new age practices, they'll do shaman one week. Next week they're gonna be
Wiccan.
Wiccan,
Mm.
and next week after that, they're gonna be Buddhist. And they're start playing the bowls or whatever.
Yeah.
So they combine all that. There's like no backbone or anything. It's like no tradition. They just, and a lot of, I mean, okay.
Just
A
say
lot of
it.
people, I know, people are gonna hate me. I'm gonna tell the truth. But a lot of people, new age, they'll just jump into plant medicine. Okay?
Mhm.
I'm not an expert on that. I've done it. I'm not gonna lie. But you should do it with somebody that's gonna teach you the right way. You know,
Right.
just for a ceremony, that's fine. But they're saying like, oh, they call themselves spiritual, but they're only looking to get high or something. You gotta do your work. Not altered. They want to be, clear-headed and stuff. That's what
Yeah.
Buddhists, Hindus do. They're not getting high to get connected, because when you come back down, you got nothing.
Yeah.
You say, well, I got that experience. Okay, you got the experience, but you don't practice it every day. You just out there getting
High.
getting high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I had a conversation with somebody that's very close to me, not too long ago, and they were talking about the ayahuasca
Mhm.
experience,
Yeah.
And you know, I have this crazy experience in my life where I actually saw God face to face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was like uh, pretty much on my deathbed,
Mm-hmm.
all right? And so I literally saw God face to face, and um, the whole story is crazy because that person that I saw
Mm-hmm.
when I went to go get X-rays and come back,
Mm-hmm.
was a different person.
Right.
And I asked him, I said, "Where's the doctor that ordered my X-rays?" And he said, "I am that doctor." And I'm like, "You're not the guy that I saw."
Right.
So I feel like I have this experience in my life that God allowed me to have, and I had this miraculous healing. But when I talk to these people about the ayahuasca experience, they told me, they said, that's the closest I've ever been to God.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, and they kept telling me, like, you should try it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking to myself, like, I've already seen God's face, like, I don't need to get any closer.
Right.
And so that's not something that I would actively go out and pursue.
Right.
But by that person saying that to me, it kind of made me focus on just that.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be something else that the ayahuasca experience
Mhm.
offers that I'm not familiar with.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But because that one person said that, it kind of led me to believe, like, well, I don't need that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So somebody that's informed and somebody that's educated in that area would know, like, not to do that,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
So yeah, so I understand that whole deal about, having these experiences and getting closer to God. But I think for me, and one of the things that really intrigues me about what you guys do here is that there is real healing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And we're not high.
no, yeah, you're right. And it's a very clean experience.
Right.
It's like very spiritual and it's very personal,
Mm-hmm.
which to me makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
We don't have a relationship with our Creator, in a group. It's like one-on-one.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a huge advocate and I'm a huge fan of what you guys do here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that every time I bring somebody, they say the same thing. The last guest that we had on, his wife was here with him, and when I spoke with him the day after, he said, I just want to go back and hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just love the energy there.
Right.
So I guess even in the ayahuasca
Mm-hmm.
experience, you're saying that people like try to use that to make money just as a
Oh yeah. Right now it's anywhere from a couple of years. I think it's like at least $350, $500
wow.
for one session.
Wow.
And that, you're only gonna get that high just from that one time.
Yeah.
But like in Buddhism, we practice it every time, so I can get that high anytime I want.
Mhm.
And just practice it.
Yeah, I mean, you get a spiritual high, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's not anything that's enhanced,
Right.
Mhm.
that you're dealing with.
Right. And like I've said to Louie and I've said to other people who've asked me about the plant medicine, I've never taken any of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm not for it or against it. I think that if you want to try it or you want to try it, you should, because if that's what you want to try, why not?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
I agree.
but for me, I could get that high naturally
Mhm.
in my own connection. I don't need to be altered
Right.
to see God, talk to God, or my ancestors or my
Mhm.
guides. I could go there naturally, and
Mhm.
I don't want anybody working on me while they're high.
No,
You know,
for sure.
A doctor that
I don't
work
want
on you
to.
when
Right,
you're high,
exactly.
or
So
somebody-
that's why I'm like I prefer to do my work with a clear mind, have some focus. I don't want to be drinking. I don't want to be doing drugs.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I'm not opposed to it. If someone feels that that's going to help them, then so be it.
That's just being responsible.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because I mean, if somebody's coming here to meet with you and they're coming here with the hope of maybe having a healing or an understanding of what's going on
Mhm.
with them
Mm-hmm.
personally, you want to make sure that you're delivering the best possible
Right.
information or
Right.
practices
Mhm.
that you can. And so having a clear mind and a clear heart is the
Mhm.
best way to do it, right?
Exactly.
So I'm with you 100%. I mean, I won't do, as a rule of thumb, I won't do business with anybody at an event if they come up and they start talking to me and I smell alcohol in their breath. I'm
right.
like, just give me your card and we'll talk next week.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it just doesn't. It's just not good for business. Period.
No,
you
no,
know,
it's not.
and it's not
Right.
good
Yeah.
for a first impression either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And plus, to a lot of my students, they ask me when we're doing meditation or something, well, can we be high when we're doing it? I'm like,
No.
you can, but not my students. I tell them, I prefer you guys not to be
Altered.
altered. And they're like, well, but it relaxes me. I'm like, okay, there's a different kinds of relaxation. I mean, you can be relaxed, jet lagged. You can be high, off of cannabis. You can be off of anything else, other plant medicine out there. But you get a different energy or a different connection.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing a natural and when you're relaxed, I mean that's a straight connection. And then so it's different experiences you get.
Yeah.
That's when we practice Buddhism, cold turkey, no music, no nothing, meditate, and we connect right away.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about too, like the traditions. Buddhism's been around over, I don't know what, 2,500 years. Hinduism too. Taoism. In New Age, you're just coming in and like, oh, now I'm gonna use cannabis, or I'm gonna do this, and so with my meditations, and like, oh, okay, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like
different.
yeah. I mean, if I didn't know any better, and I was just understanding this for the first time, I would say it was a watered down version of what the real thing is,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And like Angie said, I mean, there are some people that maybe go online and because we talked about this earlier about people getting ordained
Mm-hmm.
to be a minister, and like you said, Angie, it that is a little bit different sometimes because there's people that just start out working in a church and then they raise themselves through the church
Right.
and eventually they have their own church, right?
Yeah.
And so getting ordained, online or whatever, I guess it really depends on where your heart is with your creator, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes so the fact that you're getting ordained online just means that you have a piece of paper saying, hey,
Certificate, yeah.
here's what I do.
Yeah, I have a friend who he worked in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now he's starting his own church.
Oh wow.
But he's laid down the foundation.
Yeah.
He started out in church. He's been going to church for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's coming up, and now he wants to start his own church.
Wow.
There's not a certificate for that.
Right.
That just he but that's his passion.
Yeah.
That's where his calling is, his purpose.
Yeah.
So he's not jumping from the over here to here to here.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing the same thing for years.
He's allowed, I'll say, God, life, and good karma
Exactly.
to manifest that within him to
Right.
be like, okay, now I'm ready.
Right.
Because you don't like my father is a devout Christian man. I mean, he's a dedicated man, and he's a rock in our family. But he went to a church one time, and they told him, "You're ready to go pastor your own church." And my dad was like, "No, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been here for like a year."
Right.
But because my dad showed up every Sunday faithfully, on time, prepared, had read whatever verses they were going to go through,
Right.
they thought, oh, here's somebody that's reliable. He'll show up every day.
Right.
And, you're ready now.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God my father said, no, I'm not ready.
Right.
And, and I had told him before, because I went with him to that church, and I told him, Dad, something just doesn't seem right here. And they thought it was me. They said, oh, you need God. And I'm like, no, I know God.
Right.
Like, something's just not right. And eventually the church ended up folding, you know what I mean? Like, shortly after. But being able to take the experience that you have throughout your life and then hone that into one area and then sharing that with people. Like your friend, he went off of experience of growing up in church and then working in law enforcement and seeing what the other side of is out there,
Right.
and then coming back and putting those two together, those two experiences, and then starting.
Right. It's a calling. It's a purpose. He's just not jumping on the bandwagon. Okay, one day I'm going to believe in God and have a church.
Yeah.
He's laying down the foundation. He's done the work.
So that's just that would be the traditional way,
Right.
Yep.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just to
That's right.
grow up in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I understand what you're saying now. So all of the practices that you deliver here, a lot of the people that you have
Hmm.
on your staff are traditional
Mhm.
people.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy for me to understand.
We've stuck to one thing. We didn't, go off and take all these online courses, and then all of a sudden we have a certificate, and we're this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
mean, even from Reiki, how many years experience do you have in Reiki?
Since the 90s, so like
90s.
25 years. But a lot of people want a certificate for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just something to show, an achievement, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But
Well,
Yeah.
it's different if you, let's say for instance, you have over 25 years experience and then you go get a certificate. Now you've got that traditional foundation,
mhm.
that you raised yourself up through.
Right.
And now you're just saying, oh, here's a piece of paper that you can see if you want to.
Mhm.
But really your work speaks for itself.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so-
Right.
So that's where the word of mouth thing comes in
Right.
really important, right?
Right.
Because
And
it's like,
there's so many people now with all kinds of forms of Reiki.
yeah.
Reiki's taken off in every kind of direction.
Yeah.
There's
Wow.
different kind. There's the traditional Reiki, and then there's all kinds of Reiki now, and people are just like, everybody's doing Reiki now. But
Yeah.
it's just a lot of. I think that there's some people who are putting in the work, and really that's their calling and that's their passion.
Mhm.
But there's just some people just jumping on the New Age bandwagon, and I'm gonna become a Reiki practitioner. Oh, I'm gonna become a crystal healer. Now I'm gonna be a shaman. It's just a bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
There's
No,
there's
you're
no
right.
there's no passion in it. There's no purpose for them. It's just a certificate.
It's like I'm not gonna say, but it's
can
like
say it.
there. Well, no, I'm just saying because there's businesses out there that have people that they're like a carnival dude. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
Mhm.
look at this or look at that. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
and
That's
it's
true.
not really. There's no merit. There's no valid
Right.
foundation.
And people are just branching off and calling anything something spiritual. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stuff I've never even heard of. That's
Yeah,
just
actually, that's
so
true.
out there that you just like, what is that? And if somebody just came up with a wild idea, and all of a sudden now you can get a certificate, and it's going to cost you $1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody now. Before back then, you never heard about qigong or qi.
Right.
Now
Right.
everybody's talking about qi energy. They're like, oh, okay, how long have you been practicing it? Oh, you just got certified. Like, okay, good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You can bring your frequency that high, to be a qi practitioner.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of even I mean, in every practice there's New Age. I mean, even Reiki.
Mhm.
There's Reiki now that's been around maybe I don't know less than 5 years. I don't know the time, but and they're taking the name Qigong and just replacing it with Reiki now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're taking away all the tradition of over 2,500 years, and now instead of the chakras, now they're not talking about the dantians. We're like, that's not Reiki, that's Qigong. But they're just taking it and putting in Reiki on there.
Ah,
So,
yeah. People.
yeah.
You know what's crazy is that people are constantly searching for answers,
Mhm.
and other people are trying to create their own version of, that
That's
answer.
it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
They're
And
creating their own version
Yeah.
of something.
Yeah, don't take the name. I mean, if you wanna do that practice, then practice Qigong. Don't practice.
Yeah. I guess that's where your intuition that your creator gives you
Mm-hmm.
to know, like when you meet somebody, whether they're an online shaman or they're a real shaman, like
Right.
you'll feel it.
Mhm.
Like we all have Native American friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you, like I've felt this deep spiritual energy from some of them,
Mhm.
that I've met with, to the point where you become emotionally uncontrolled.
Right.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just, but it's that deep,
Mm-hmm.
and then I know that a couple of weeks ago I came here and you guys blessed me with with the
A Reiki attunement.
Reiki attunement. That's what it is.
Mhm.
And I told Louie I went home and I was so drained. I sat down and started checking my emails, and next thing you know, I woke up. It was like 2 hours later, and I was like, man. But do you know? I gotta tell you, after that, like, so many things just started falling in place.
Mhm.
For I mean, I'm talking like on a huge level, like
Yeah.
things that we've been working on for like 7 years now.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, we got people calling us that we were like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, these are Fortune 5 companies, and I'm
Mhm.
like, geez, like, how did they even remember us? You know, but and I attribute that to you guys and what you do here. Like, I would have never, I don't think I would have ever experienced that had I not come here.
Right.
You know, so it was a blessing.
Yeah. It was.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime.
So yeah.
Let me know when you're ready for number 2.
Yeah.
Reiki attunement
Yeah.
too.
And if it doesn't knock me out, I think I'm ready. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
You know, and I did everything he told me to. I drank a lot of water.
Good.
But I couldn't believe it. When I woke up, I was like, holy smokes, they were right. Like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Because normally when I leave here, I go, you know, either to LA or I'll go home and then I'll get on my computer and I'm working till, you know, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Man, not this time.
You needed
yeah,
rest.
yeah, God, life, and good karma
Yes.
said, you're going to go to sleep right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, man, I'll tell you, this has been really interesting because I
Yes.
never really thought about the difference. I mean, I'm a novice here when it comes to, you know, this type of conversation with
Mhm.
spirituality,
Mhm.
and I never ever thought about a difference between what traditional spirituality is
Mhm.
and New Age. Well, let's call it like advanced, you know,
Well, even
digital.
yoga's practice is
Yeah.
totally different in other countries
I'll
than the way
say
we
it,
teach
yeah.
it here.
Oh, there
Oh,
are
yeah.
the masters that I know out there in Taiwan or in India, when they say, oh yeah, when you have to be a yogi, and people think right away, oh, yoga. Over there, when you say yogi or yoga, it's like an umbrella. It has to do with breath work, meditation, and body movements, kind of like yoga.
Hmm.
So over here is it's just body movements. That's
It's
all
just
it is.
like an exercise,
That's
right?
an exercise.
Right.
Over there's a
It's a teaching. It's
Yeah. An
a
experience.
foundation.
yeah, that's
Right.
right.
It's
Yeah.
like a full-on. Like you're saying, it's like a full-on experience then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where
Mhm.
over here, it's just like an exercise.
It's
That's right.
poses.
It's poses and practices.
It's still beneficial.
Yeah.
It is.
You know,
Everything-
there's good with the yoga, but it's just a different. It was practiced. The traditional way of doing it is
Mhm.
in India and so forth, and then
Mhm.
it came here to the America. It got changed.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's what people don't understand is I mean it's beneficial. I mean it helps, but
Mhm.
there's things that are people call it they'll say that they know Kundalini it's with yoga and stuff, but it's like Kundalini that I know of the traditional way nobody teaches it out here. Very it's a rare technique.
Oh,
And
really?
a lot of the monks or the gurus they don't want to teach that
Mm.
because they say it's more because the people that want to learn is more of a trend instead of a practice in
Yeah.
everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine that's probably what happened, like in the martial arts world.
Mhm.
You know, they took like
Mhm.
traditional,
Right.
like those.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
Yeah, those monks that we're talking about that are
Mhm.
practicing, they're literally
Mhm.
24 hours a day, 7
Mhm.
days a week.
Yeah.
They're like refining
Right.
Yeah.
what it is that they're learning,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So, wow, this has been good. It's been
Mhm.
really educational for me. I hope that anybody watching out there is getting the same experience that I am,
Yeah.
like learning and understanding, you know, what it is that this whole world is about and how to get to the root,
Mhm.
where you're working with a real foundation,
Mhm.
you know, instead of a facade,
Right.
so to speak.
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, this has been good,
It has
guys.
been. Yes.
So episode 8
Yeah. Alrighty.
here from the Mindful Lotus. Angie, Louie, myself, I'm Nick. And just please, if you guys have the viewing audience, if you guys have any questions or you have anything that you'd like for us to discuss, that might be helpful as
That'd
well.
be great. Yeah.
You know, we'd like to
Stop by.
include that.
Stop by this
Yeah,
time.
or
Yeah.
please stop by. You guys will
Mhm.
love it here.
Yes.
So, anyway, we're gonna sign off.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
appreciate you
Thank
guys
you,
having
guys.
me here. Thank you so much.
Thanks.